I'm Jordan Rayner, and this is the Word Before Work. Today we're reading from Genesis 1, verses 26 through 31. Here's what it says. Then God said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground." Then God said, "I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food. And to all the beasts of the earth and all the birds in the sky and all the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food." And it was so. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. Just before graduating from college, Fred Rogers turned on a television for the first time, and what he saw totally appalled him. Rogers later recalled, quote, "I saw people dressed in some kind of costumes, literally throwing pies in each other's faces, and I was astounded at that," end quote. Rogers' first impression of television was that it was gimmicky and even demeaning, especially to children. But while Rogers hated what he saw in that first TV show, he was also intrigued by a vision he had for how the medium of television could be redeemed and used for good, in particular in demonstrating Christ-like character to kids. Not only that, but in television, Rogers saw an opportunity to channel all of his varied gifts in a single direction. Rogers told his parents, quote, "I don't think I'm going to go to seminary right away. I think maybe I'll go into television," end quote. Eventually, Rogers actually did both. He attended seminary classes on his lunch break, and then he'd go back to his studio where he produced Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. But upon graduation from Western Theological Seminary, Rogers knew he had to choose between TV and pastoral ministry. For Rogers, the decision to commit to a career in television was a relatively easy one, as he felt that's where he could be of the utmost service to his neighbors. In the mind of Fred Rogers, there was no divide between the sacred and the quote-unquote secular. He understood that man's first calling in the garden was to emulate the Creator Father by creating new things, and that the path to having the greatest cultural impact for the gospel is often found in embracing the call to create. While Rogers didn't want to pastor a church, he did desire to be ordained by the Presbyterian Church with an explicit call to ministry through television. But the presbytery had some considerable reservations. At a meeting in which the local presbytery was debating the issue, Reverend Bill Barker addressed the elders on Rogers' behalf, saying, quote, I love this. Here's what Barker said. He said, quote, "Here's an individual who has his pulpit proudly in front of a TV camera. His congregation are little people from the ages of about 2 or 3 on up to about 7 or 8. This is a man who has been authentically called by the Lord, as much as any of you guys sitting out there in the presbytery," end quote. The Presbyterian Church eventually did ordain Fred Rogers, but that action only served to formalize what Rogers already knew to be true, that he was called to create as a means of influencing culture with the Christian values he held so dear. Later in his career, Rogers said, quote, "No matter what our particular job, especially in our world today, we are all called to be tikkun ulam, repairers of creation," end quote. As we'll see over the next two devotionals, that deep sense of calling to repair creation with the gospel message impacted what Rogers produced on Neighborhood and how he produced the show, giving us a model to follow as we seek to influence culture for Christ. Today's devotional only scratches the surface of how God's Word connects to our work. If you want to go deeper, sign up for my free 20-day devotional called The Word Before Work Foundations at twbwfoundations.com. These email devotionals are designed to help you gain a rich understanding of the biblical narrative of work, how exactly your work matters for eternity, and what those truths mean for how we ought to work today. Sign up right now, again, totally free at twbwfoundations.com.